All right. It is Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026, 5:30. We have the Affordable Housing Workshop to begin tonight. We'll move with presentation of the Affordable Housing Fund Policy information. I'd like to welcome Kristen Fish Pearson from Redevelopment Resources to introduce herself and provide a presentation she's produced for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here. And I am going to present to you the presentation we have on the screen. And then I think we have time for questions and comments. So I will dive right in. Redevelopment Resources was contracted with the city of Fort Atkinson to take a look at the situation around housing in the community and help the city decide how to structure the policy for which you will spend the funds from your excess tax increment. The Wisconsin statutes have allowed you to take that increment and spend it on 75% of it on affordable housing and the other 25 if you wish on market rate housing. But we've gone through a process now to develop a proposed policy. So over the past few weeks, I've conducted 15 or so interviews with representatives from various community organizations and sectors, including business, large business, and small business. We've talked to the school, we've talked to the hospital, we've talked to developers, contractors, realtors, anybody who touches housing that were on a list of stakeholders provided by the city. Then took that information, knowing what we know about your housing market and the community, and we drafted a set of policies and programs to expend that money effectively for Fort Atkinson. This step of the process is a public workshop to gather feedback from you as elected officials, as well as the public and the stakeholders that have an interest in this. So one thing we want to do is establish what affordability means. And there are so many misperceptions around affordable housing, and it can take on so many different definitions. But we use what HUD considers the income limits as somewhat of a barometer for what we consider affordable. Technically, according to state statute, affordability means that nobody is spending more than 30% of their income on household, the mortgage principal and interest, and then taxes and insurance. Sometimes utilities are included in there and sometimes not. But I wanted to kind of set the parameters on what is considered affordable. So we have this slide representing the county median income for Jefferson County. The county median family income at 100% is $111,700, excuse me. HUD then looks at what is considered very low, extremely low, and low, and sets parameters for that by the number of people in the house. When we're looking at affordability, we look at a household of a family of four. So I have some examples on the next few slides that just show how this applies to an average mortgage payment. So I'm going to go through these. At 80% of the county median income, let's just say, and these are examples, I can run any example you want, but I just chose a middle of the road example. Let's just say a modest house, a very modest house, new construction at $350,000. We're looking, for example, could be 1,400 square feet at $250 a square foot. If someone were to get a mortgage at 5.75% over 30 years, and they had $25,000 for a down payment, which is hard at any rate, the principal and interest the payment would be $2,407 a month. In Jefferson County, a four-person household at 80% county median income generates $89,450 or $43 an hour. At 30%, they would be spending only $2,236 a month. So they wouldn't be able to afford this house. Someone at the 80% of the area median income. That's just the principal and interest, not including PMI, if they don't have the $25,000 down payment, plus taxes and insurance. So this shows that at 80% of the county median income, a $350,000 home is not within their reach. Wouldn't be considered affordable. They'd be spending beyond their means. At the 100% of the county median income, the same example, 1,400 square foot, house, the principal and interest is still $2,407 a month, but that family generates $111,700 a year. Their payment could be at 30% of their income, $2,792. So they're just barely over that, they'd barely be able to afford this house and be affordable, spending 30% of their income on just principal and interest. So this is the affordability problem that exists in housing right now. The same example, at 120% of the county median income, that family would generate $134,040 per year, and they would be able to afford a $3,351 payment. So they would be able to afford, somebody at 120% county median income would be able to afford this house if they make a $25,000 down payment. It just kind of walks you through what is considered affordable and the challenge we have, and the challenge a developer would have building something that is considered affordable to 100% and 80% of the area median income for a family of four. I did another example, and the first part this is an example at 50% of the county median income. And I chose this example to illustrate what, let's say, for example, if a senior on a fixed income needed to pay rent. So the new construction part is not super relevant, but let's just say a developer is building units, apartment units, and it's costing him, the math isn't quite right here because I have the same 1,400 square feet. I think it should be 1,200 square feet at 250 for 300,000. But let's just say they've developed a unit of a condo or a walk-in apartment, a zero entry slab on grade unit for a senior to rent. If a developer to rent to a resident at 50% of the area median income, because this person is a senior citizen on a fixed income and they fall within that range, they would be generating $39,000 a year. Their rent would have to be $977.50 a month for rent. The problem here is if they had that money, the developer wouldn't make enough in rent to pay for that development. They wouldn't generate enough revenue from rents to support the development of that development. So that's where the incentives need to come in from the municipality in order to keep it affordable for the end user. That's the gap. The gap is the developer can only generate so much rent from these folks. So he can only borrow so much to fund the development, and then there's a gap. So that's why we design incentives to support this kind of development. I then chose to present some data about the wages, the median hourly wage that certain occupations earn. And there are two slides, and I did arrange them in ascending order of the median hourly wage. But this is from the website, the National Low Income Housing Coalition. And this is for the Madison area, and it compared Madison and Wisconsin. This is for the Madison area, the median hourly wage of certain occupations. So bartenders starting at $11 an hour. Of course, they probably rely on tips as well, but we have different occupations here, and it shows the wages that they make. So we have food prep workers, retail salespeople, home health and personal care aides, stockers and order fillers, janitors and cleaners. It goes down the list. Office clerks, miscellaneous assemblers and fabricators at $22 an hour. And then this is just various occupations, their hourly wage. And then what is the housing wage for a one-bedroom apartment? It would be $18.93 an hour based on what rents are. And $18.93 falls right in that first line supervisors of food preparation and service workers, and everybody below that would be maybe able to afford a one-bedroom apartment. The housing wage for a two-bedroom is $23.15. So on this slide, we're at about that second entry, and secretaries and administrative assistants and everything on the first slide. So when we talk about affordable housing, these are the kinds of jobs of the people who have those occupations, and this is who we're trying to house with affordable housing. There's a lot of conversation we could have around, these last several slides. I can keep going, or we can pause for questions if you'd like. The next few slides just outline the 3 different programs that we're recommending for policy. If you'd like me to keep going now, or if you want me to, okay, I'll keep going here. So you have $1.44 million to allocate. So I have allocated that money across 3 different programs. And these are recommendations based on what I have learned, but certainly there can be changes made. $1.44 million doesn't go very far. So we're trying to spread it out as much as we can to affect as many people as we can. If we allocate $1 million towards multi-tenant occupied development incentives, so apartments, affordable apartments, you would incentivize 50 units of affordable housing with this. So recommendation to offer a maximum of $20,000 per unit for multifamily housing developed, provided rent is at an affordable housing income limit for 120% or less of the county median income. The maximum amount per developer would be $500,000. Projects could be in a mixed income property with market rate and affordable units, but the incentives would only be paid on affordable units unless the city council approves an equal incentive for market rate units. But I think I allocated all the funds towards the affordable policies. So I just then outlined some developer eligibility qualifications here. Projects must be located in the city. They must meet the affordability definition in this document. They must be of 5 or more units. And developer must own the land, fee simple, or have had the land under a binding offer to purchase, and plans have been submitted to the city for review and approval. So we want to know they're on their way with this development. They're not just speculatively asking for an incentive. So that would be the incentive to incentivize multifamily development. The second policy would be to provide down payment assistance. This is to help first-time homebuyers. If you allocate $240,000 to this program, you would be able to help 12 first-time homebuyers, and they would qualify for up to $20,000 in down payment assistance in the form of a deferred loan at 0% interest. And I want to say some communities offer a grant, but I would recommend offering a deferred loan at 0% interest, because you will get that money back and then it will revolve and you will be able to make more deferred loans in the future. How that works is I come to you and I qualify as a first-time homebuyer. You lend me the $20,000 in a down payment, and then at any point in the future when I refinance or sell the home, there would be a mortgage on the property to repay that $20,000 back to the city. So it wouldn't come back to you until the owner sold or refinanced, but you would get the money back to revolve through the funding, through the program again. No payment would be required until the home is sold or no longer the borrower's primary residence. So again, the borrower needs to meet the program guidelines, be mortgage ready and able to secure affordable superior mortgage from a loan from a bank or a credit union or USDA rural development or other conventional lender. We wouldn't allow this on a land contract. We just want to make sure there's another entity over, another financial institution overlooking the deal. To increase the probability that a house payment will remain affordable, the first mortgage is used to purchase the home must be at a fixed rate. We don't want somebody borrowing at a variable rate and then getting in trouble down the road. The home buyer's household income must be at or below 80% of the county median income to be eligible for the down payment assistance. And then homes that qualify can be stick-built, modular, new manufactured, or condominium on a permanent foundation. A home that is rented does not qualify. On a rented lot. We're on the, I think that's leased lot. Yeah. So it would be a mobile home on a leased lot wouldn't qualify, but something on a permanent foundation. And then the third program, we did hear from a lot of the stakeholders that I interviewed that senior affordable independent living is in demand. And so I've thought that if we allocated $200,000 to developing 10 affordable senior units, again at $20,000 per unit, that could help a developer make that affordable. So these would be zero at grade, zero entry affordable housing units, provided the rent is affordable at HUD income limits at 50% or less of the county median income. That can be changed. We can, work on that a little bit if it's not going to be feasible once a developer puts this through their pro forma, but that was the recommendation. We did hear quite a bit. And again, I would love it if the city had more TIF increment to spend and make a bigger impact, but to spread this around to the areas that were highest, the most mentioned in the interviews that I did, senior affordable was one that was in demand. So again, a developer could develop all 10 units and get the full 200,000, and details would be codified in a development agreement for this one and for the multifamily. So those were the policies that I recommended based on the interviews and the data that we had. The next steps for this process include receiving feedback from this meeting and comments from elected officials on the city council and the various committees. Then we would do the formal policy drafting for your approval at the city council, and then we'd be ready to implement.
Thank you. Yes, this will be the time for any of the council members that wish to provide any feedback or questions, concerns.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm wondering, do you see in what other communities in Wisconsin have you helped implement a program like this?
Sure, we worked with the city of Whitewater and the city of Plymouth. We've also provided guidance to other communities, but we've actually done housing studies in Plymouth and wrote their policy, and we wrote the policy in the city of Whitewater.
And have those programs been in place for a while, or are they still relatively new?
Whitewater's has been in place for 2 years. Plymouth's has been in place for at least a year, maybe a year and a half.
And the breakdown of the 1.4 million, how the suggested allocation for either multifamily home construction versus first-time buyers and affordable senior living, is that sort of similar to what you've seen in other communities?
Every community is so different, and we didn't cookie cutter any of this. Whitewater situation was so different because they're upside down, where they have a larger percentage of their residents living in rented units than owner-occupied units. So they wanted to put all of their affordable housing funds towards owner-occupied units. So that's how that policy was written. There was a portion of their policy for down payment assistance, which they're pairing with what people can get from at the county. And so we would encourage your residents, if you do approve a down payment assistance program, to also pair that with what the county offers for down payment assistance or any county program that exists. In Plymouth, they wanted to incentivize different things, and I believe there was some multifamily there and some homeowner rehab maybe. You are spending some of your money on homeowner rehab already with Habitat for Humanity, which I'm really thrilled about because that was a huge need that I received feedback on from people that I interviewed. So,
one more question right at this time. The numbers that you ran through at the beginning were some scenarios, and they had like based on like a $25,000 down payment. Do you see that new home buyers are able to cobble together $25,000?
which makes it even more unaffordable to purchase a new home.
Thanks.
And David asked my question, so. Because I was curious how it was working in other communities and if it's pieced out into multiple facets or focused in on one.
Right. I think in Whitewater, we focused it on owner occupied and down payment assistance.
Okay.
I think they had a fund for homeowner rehab. We might have supplemented that a little bit with some more money because they were running low on funds, but that program was already in place as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
And just a quick reminder for the public and the council, the that Fort Atkinson critical repair program run by Habitat did just launch like a few days ago. And that's made up of $250,000 from the city from this TIF extension, as well as $250,000 matching grant from the Fort Atkinson Community Foundation. So there's $500,000 in that program right now. And all those, the applications and everything for that is all live on Habitat's website.
I don't really have any questions. I know you and me spoke for a great period of time on the phone over this, and very pleased with what the questions you asked and how in depth you went. So with that, I would open up for the Plan Commission and Economic Development Committee members. If you have any questions for Mrs. Peterson, sorry.
Would you come up to the podium, please, and just state your name and your role, and if you're on the Plan Commission or EDC, and then feel free.
Lauren Gray on the Economic Development Commission. I just am kind of behind it, I guess, because I'm not sure where the TIF money comes from that we're talking about spending. And that may not be a germane subject for this evening, but I wasn't aware that we had $1.4 million to allocate in this fashion. But also, I'm just curious to know, is $350,000 a reasonable minimum price for a 1,400 square foot house in Fort Atkinson?
Speak into the microphone.
Sure.
So it depends. Depends on finishes. It depends on if the developer owns the land already. Depends on a lot of factors. And there's a tool out there that I found when we were doing the Whitewater project where we could pick the location. So I chose Whitewater, Wisconsin, and I said, what kind of house can I build here? And it was a tool that would tell you how much it would cost and what you could get for that. So I put in 12 or 1,400 square feet. I can't remember if I said 2 or 3 bedrooms, but we did slab on grade, no basement. We did, I said attached garage, but then everything was as inexpensive as possible. So a very low sloping roof, not very expensive siding, the cheapest finishes internally with, baseboards and hollow core doors and, in a very cheap house. And it came in at $319,000. It's crazy. And so I used that tool as an example. And I think now Whitewater is saying somebody is producing housing for $300,000. I saw a LinkedIn post today that Mason and John had forwarded through LinkedIn that said they're offering single family homes for $300,000, but I don't know how big they are, how many bedrooms they have, and what the finishes are like. And so it's possible. I think if people get creative, there are some really cute modular homes that are small cottage-like homes that could be put on existing infill lots in the city that I think would be more affordable, but you have to get really creative with that and work hard to get it to be less than $350,000.
And just to address the TIF funding question, so when the city has had 3 tax increment districts over the last 2 years that have closed, the city council has passed resolutions to extend the lives of those TIDs for 1 year, which state statute allows us to extend the life for 1 year, take the increment and put it into a fund to assist with affordable housing. So that is what the city council did with TID 6, 7, and 8. So there's about $1.7 million in that fund. The city council allocated $250,000 of that for the Habitat Critical Repair Program. You're welcome.
All right. Any other Plan Commission or EDC members?
Hi there, Jonah Ralston from the Economic Development Commission. I had a question about the down payment program. So it seems to me the real benefit of getting the down payment assistance would be to remove your PMI, right? Is that going to be in the policy that they, or that will there be any matching to, or are we worried that they don't have to have any skin in the game, so to speak? That they could just get 20,000 with nothing, putting forth nothing on their own? Because I have a few concerns about that down payment program that I was hoping could be addressed. One, again, the PMI requirement, like it would reduce that payment considerably. And then also if there's any kind of matching requirements. I do like that it's coming back though. I thought that was pretty innovative, that it comes back to the city. It may take a while. But I love it.
Yeah, you could have a requirement that they do have some skin in the game. And you could say a dollar amount or a percentage of the purchase price. Even at 20,000, they won't avoid PMI. So unless they get a matching grant from the county agency that offers down payment assistance, and if it's another 20 or 25, and they were at 50 or 55, or excuse me, 40 or 45,000, if they put in 5,000, they'd be at 50. That would be significant and impactful. So if you'd like to see a percentage or a dollar amount matching, we can definitely write that into the policy. I mean, you only have 10, I think, opportunities, or 12 to, it would be 12 first-time home buyers. So if the program is successful, maybe the city can find another way to keep it going, but.
The county's program is very nice too. The county, and this would be stackable with the county's program as was referred to. They have a lot of home buyer education components to that. So there would be, if we, with this policy, the council might consider adding a requirement that even if you don't get both loans from the county and the city, that you would be required to attend that first-time home buyer workshops and that educational piece. I think we also have Jefferson County Financial Empowerment Center, the FEC. That's another resource for folks who live and work in Jefferson County to be able to manage their funds. And we would hate to have folks receive something through this program and then, excuse me, go default on their payment or get into other financial trouble based on these decisions. So we definitely want to make education a piece of that. And we could certainly require, the FEC offers free one-on-one financial counseling. And so that could be a component of this, the program or the policy as well, that person for the first X amount of years would have to engage with the FEC.
I will just note with the county's down payment assistance, I did use that when I bought my house almost 7 years ago. And that is a very helpful tool. And like you said, did have to go through the classes, and you learn a lot in them classes. I was very young at that time, I'll just say. It's an eye opener buying the house. So, that along with a little bit I had saved at the time was just able to push me over that threshold to get out of the PMI, which is very helpful in buying a house. And I know in them 7 years, properties have gone up tremendously. So I don't see anyone being able to do what I did at that point, but this would be a definitely helpful. And I think I'd really love to see that down payment assistance to encourage more home buyers. It's just something more prideful, I think, when someone owns their house rather than renting a house. So.
The latest statistic I read was that the average age of a first-time home buyer now in the United States is 40 years old.
Wow.
So there's a need there to be addressed. So we're happy that I'm very pleased that the city council had the foresight to make this TIF extension and the Affordable Housing Fund possible.
So can I ask a question generally?
Can you come up, Lauren?
So the city owns land out by the high school, and the city has owned land here in town where the old tennis courts were. Was there any kind of restriction put on the sale of those lots by the city that said they should be housing that would be affordable? I don't know whether there was or there wasn't.
I'll address that. The house, the lots in the Maple Grove subdivision, those 6 lots by Jones Park, those did have deed restrictions associated with them. They were not deemed affordable. They were their market rate. The deed restrictions had more to do with fitting into the neighborhood and also timelines for purchase, building permit, construction, just to make sure people didn't buy them and sit on them for as long as they wanted. So we were trying to avoid speculative buying, and I think we did that very successfully with, as all 6 of those homes are currently under construction or occupied. The land that the city currently owns, known as Ridgeview Estates by the high school, is under a development agreement with the developer. So that land the city owns, but we have committed over the next decade or so to selling all of those lots to the developer at a cost that is incorporated into the development agreement. So and those are market, those are all, there's nothing in the development agreement that requires those to be affordable housing. And I will note that we established, the city council established this fund with the first TID closure, that was TID 8, I believe it was in 2024. The increment came in 25. So this is a new program. Obviously, we're trying to put those policies in place now for what comes next.
I'm glad that you had the data on wages to kind of help frame what we're talking about with affordable housing, because I think sometimes in the past, I'm probably even guilty of equating affordable housing with low income housing.
Yep.
Not the case at all. It's probably more like affordable housing is more in line with workforce housing. I did think of one of the questions that I had, going back to the down payment assistance. It's a deferred loan to be repaid at the time of sale or future refinancing, right? And the future refinancing part, why is that kind of integral to a program like this?
You could not make it required to be repaid at refinancing depending on the terms. But I think if someone is refinancing their home, they're putting themselves in a better position from an equity standpoint or payment standpoint and interest rate standpoint. So I think they're on their way to building their wealth through ownership through home ownership. And it would get money back into recycle faster that way, unless somebody waited 40 years to sell their house, which could happen. But I guess it's just another option. We could take that part out just at the time of sale, or transition of title of some sort. If they're not the primary resident anymore, they would need to, like, if they're going to deed it to their kids, like a transfer upon death deed, I think you would want to get that money back.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I guess I was just kind of wondering whether wouldn't want to create a disincentive for somebody to refinance I don't even know what interest rates on a 30-year loan are right now, 7% or so, somewhere around there.
they're just under 6, I
Okay,
believe.
just under 6.
But
And if they
Okay.
and if they drop back down to anywhere remotely close to
3%.
where it was when I bought a house 20 some odd years ago, like you'd still would want them to like financially take advantage of that refinancing there. But it might be like, I have to weigh the refinancing versus needing to pay back
Yeah.
that.
If they didn't have the $20,000 to cash out, you wouldn't want to put them in that position.
Yep.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think everybody who could refinanced in 2020 when it was 2.625, I did. And so I understand that. Maybe we could qualify that if it's refinancing and there's the ability to do that.
All right. I see we have plenty of public members here, so I would open it up for anyone that way to come up. I just ask that you keep your comments or questions to under 3 minutes per person, please, and state your name and.
Hello, I'm Whitney Townsend. I just had a couple of things. So I know that the Home Consortium's grant program It is, since it's a lien against the title, the way that that one operates is when you are going to refinance, as long as it's not a cash out refinance, they will subordinate that lien so that you can take advantage of the interest rate opportunity. So I think that that might be something similar that could be adopted. So a lot of times what we see in cash out refinances with individuals who do have the down payment assistance programs is that they're doing a debt refinance and they're consolidating debt into their mortgage. And at that time, we want to use that opportunity to remove the lien that was the grant if they are in a debt situation. But if they're doing a straight refinance without cash out, that's a great opportunity for them. And then as far as the comment about skin in the game, a lot of those programs already have that baked in. So like the FHLB's DPA program already has a minimum contribution of $1,000 on behalf of the homeowner. And oftentimes in underwriting, there has to be some sort of cash input from the buyer. Otherwise, you become close on ratios and you aren't able to actually get a mortgage closed. So that's already, like I said, baked into the way that loans operate. You can't take on more grant funds than an individual's contribution as the buyer to the program. So I just wanted to add those two things. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public comment section? Going once? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Anybody has any more questions from the council for staff or rep? Thank you. I would at this time entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? You're adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming.